My name is Suraj Shaji, and I got All India rank 288 in the Civil Services examination. So today I would be here sharing my journey through this examination and culmination of getting a good rank in the examination. So this is an examination which is looked up to and attempted by lakhs of students, and many of them don't taste success, and hence I would like to give whatever tips I could so that it may benefit a lot of aspiring candidates for the coming years. So this time I would be focusing more on the interview session of the examination, because I have scored 204 marks in the interview, which is one of the highest marks during this year's examination. So primarily what I would like to say about the interview session of the examination is that the Civil Services examination calls this stage a personality test rather than an interview, and hence, as opposed to an interview, the personality test actually focuses upon an individual's personality rather than the basic knowledge he may have. So for preparation of this stage, I would say that your focus should be primarily on your DAF, your hobby, and your graduation experiences as well as your work experience. These are the basic things with which your interview preparation should start. And one mistake a lot of people make during this stage of the preparation is that they completely give up on reading newspapers and current affairs, because they feel that during the interview stage you don't require to be doing all these things, which is actually a big mistake, because in any interview a lot of aspect of the interview revolves around the current affairs of it. And first and foremost, I would say that for the preparation of the interview you should start by reading your DAF, and reading your DAF very carefully actually. So the basic things in your DAF, like your place of birth, your information, where you graduated from, which city you were born in, which state you were born in, all these are things which are probable questions for the interview panel. These are the questions with which an interview session formally starts off. So when you go to an interview and they have your DAF in front of them with all these details in that, for them these are questions, and you are actually representing the place wherever you were born in or wherever you grew up in. So you need to be knowing the social, political, cultural aspect of this place. For example, I was born in the Kollam district of Kerala. So this was one question they asked me, that what is the history of the place and why is the place called so. So all these are areas which you should be covering, and you should be reading up from the internet or whatever sources you could, because this would surely make it a very important aspect, and which you need to be answering, because if you don't know the place where you were born in, this does not augur well for the personality, and hence may not exactly be giving a very good signal to the interview panel. So this is primarily the starting point of an interview, but an interview can go in any direction, and it can cover anything from current affairs to your hobbies. So what you need to be doing is to be preparing your hobbies in depth, and when I say in depth, you need to do a little bit of research on it and go beyond the basic structure of it, and not just know the basics but know a bit more in depth, and especially with regards to how that thing has been in India, the Indian condition of any of these hobbies are. For example, I had put football as a hobby and analyzing developments in football. So questions had come from why India is not very good at football, or why Indian football has not been able to reach the levels Indian cricket has reached. So in these kind of questions, it is very important that you actually go beyond knowing the names of certain teams to actually knowing what the history of football has been in this country. Like, for example, in this case, it is a fact that the Indian football team had a very golden run till almost the 1970s, and if you could actually put forward these dates and these information, this would genuinely help in getting you better marks during the interview. And the interview is actually, a lot of people have this doubt whether the interview is actually about language or whether it is about those people who speak English really well. and those who are not really good at communicating may lose out a lot of marks. But I feel that the interview stage is actually a stage which checks your personality. So it doesn't matter if you speak English in a not so good way, but if you can present your ideas and if you can present yourself in a way which is clean enough for them, they will give you good marks. And it doesn't matter what your individual achievements have been all these years, because all these years don't count for anything when you're sitting there. When you're sitting there, what they want is a student who is aware, a candidate who has the potential to be at the helm of bureaucracy tomorrow, and somebody who has the potential to be working in a government setup. So basically, in such a situation, what is looked at is that you are aware about the happenings which are going on around you, and this is why current affairs becomes really important. And I would suggest that once you get into the phase of the interview and once the mains results come out, I think you should be reading more newspapers rather than completely letting go of newspapers, because newspapers will be giving you a very important avenue of information which is there important for the interview. Because in the interview, what happens is that current affairs kind of gives an information to the panel that you're an individual who follows whatever is happening around you. But instead of that, if you don't know what is happening around you, you would be deemed as somebody who's only studying textbooks, and your marks in your mains and all that doesn't count at all, and they are looking at your personality. So personality of somebody who is aware is much more attractive than the personality of someone who's not aware at all. So in this stage, it would be nice if you read a newspaper and also complement the information from maybe YouTube discussions or maybe any current affairs magazine you can get hold of. But if you can do this, this would certainly be an added asset to your interview, and you will feel very confident while you're giving the interview. And when the interview stage starts, you should be actually reading about your graduation, post-graduation subjects, because these are the subjects which you have studied and which you technically have a base in. So these subjects are the ones which would be testing what your foundational knowledge is, and you can expect at least 1 or 2 questions from the basics of these subjects. For example, I had studied economics, and one of the subjects I studied in economics was developmental economics. And I at least got 5 to 6 questions on development economics and how India has succeeded or not succeeded in planning and development as compared to East Asian countries, and why Indian planning has been successful in some areas and not been very successful in some other areas. So here you're supposed to know the basics, and if you flounder here, it would be a very bad thing to do, because this is your foundational subject. You should be knowing about these things. So it would be nice, because if you get 2 to 3 months from your mains to your interview session, it would be nice if you actually go and read these foundational aspects of your graduation subjects, because these foundational aspects will give you a very good knowledge of the subject. You're not supposed to be reading all the things which you've studied in 2 to 3 or 4 years. Just know the basic things of the subjects which any layman can ask you if you belong to that subject. And if you have any work experience, it would be nice if you actually look up what you did there and could tell them in very basic language what you did and what your job profile was, because they would be very interested in knowing things about such a candidate who has a lot of varied work experience. And one important aspect I feel about the interview session is how to handle those questions which you don't know, because in interview you can be asked anything, and obviously there would be questions which you don't know. So in such a case, it's always advisable to say no rather than bluff or make up any answer, because this is not the mains, and these are people who have 30-35 years of experience in civil services. They will easily call through your bluff and they'll easily understand that you're bluffing. So in such a situation, it is always advisable to wear a smile on your face and say that you don't know the answer. It doesn't matter at all if you say no 2 to 3 times in an interview. I personally in my interview said no at least 2 to 3 times, and this does not have a bearing on what your final result would be. It only matters whether you can carry it off confidently and how you handle a situation where you're not prepared to be answering that. So in such a situation also, you should not let it affect your confidence at all. What matters in this 20 to 30 minutes is what your confidence levels are. And if your confidence level is pretty high, you can easily sail through the interview session. And hence it is always said that while you're sitting in an interview, you should be smiling. But when you are smiling, you should not be smiling throughout the interview. Have your common sense to know what kind of question is being asked. And if a question is being asked on poverty, you're not supposed to smile, but rather show empathy. So that should be shown on your face. And all these things actually immediately give a signal to the interview panel that you're a person who's empathetic, you're a person who understands what the problems are, and you're a person who has an answer to these problems. And while answering, another important thing is not to jump the gun. Let them ask the question, let them complete the question, and then give you time. And then take a moment of pause, maybe look down and think before you say something, because in the interview, if you say something, there are like 5 people sitting there, and if you say something wrong, they will pick up on it and you will get yourself into very, very deep trouble. And it gets very difficult to get out of a situation where you say something which you had not intended to say. And one thing I would really suggest before you go for the interview is to know in depth about yourself. What interests you, what are your hobbies, and why are they your hobbies, and why you actually took up these hobbies, all these things about you. And what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. Knowing all these things actually helps during the interview stage pretty much. So as I said, the starting would be a reading of your DAF, and then going to current affairs and also your graduation subject. All these things will prepare you in depth for the interview. And now during the interview, a lot of emphasis should be given on the body language, and this is one area which actually needs to be looked into before you actually give an interview, because many of us don't look into our body posture or don't look into the fact that how we answer things, which may look very informal and quite okay if we are in an informal setting. But for a UPSC interview, when we are facing a panel which has very senior officers in it, you have to maintain dignity of the forum as well as a certain amount of formality in how you sit and how you answer. So keep a check on your posture, keep it upright, and don't look as someone who's very lax and slack. So in that situation, I would suggest that you sit upright, you have a smile on your face, and you look as if you're a formal person, even if you're not in real life. But in those 30 to 35 minutes, you should come across as somebody who's very formal. And in an interview, whenever you face a question which you feel you're getting sidelined or trapped in, I think the way you can get out of these things would be to answer all these things with respect to the law of the land, the constitution, as well as keeping transparency in your mind. These are certain important principles which every bureaucrat is guided by, and you should always answer your questions on the basis of these concepts, which include transparency, rule of the law, and the Constitution of India. So these things can actually get you out of trouble whenever you feel like you're being cornered on certain key issues. And if I could give you an example, I would say that during my interview, I had a question on cow slaughter and cow welfare. I was asked if cow welfare is actually a waste of public resources. So in such a situation, if I take an outright stand that it is a wasteful resource, then it would be completely ignoring the fact that the DPSP of the Constitution also provides for cow slaughter, cow protection, and the ban on cow slaughter. So in such a situation, what would be advisable is to take a middle ground and say that, of course, money can be prioritized, but at the same time, welfare is something which is guided by the Constitution of India. In such a situation, we should be following the Constitution of India. So the Constitution of India can give you a model answer which cannot be questioned by anybody, because we are all bound by the Constitution of India, and this is what we are supposed to answer. And Whenever I have heard about candidates and their doubts on the interview session, a lot of people feel that those people who come from rural areas, or those people who don't have any great academic achievements, or may not be from really big colleges, have a disadvantage at the interview session. It really doesn't matter wherever you're from and the way you speak in. The only things they look at is your awareness and your personality, which irrespective of the place you're from, can be easily molded and can be easily looked through by the interview panel, especially if you have the awareness and if you have the knowledge. That's the only thing that matters. You can give your interview in any regional medium of language you want to give in, or if you give in English, nobody is looking for your pronunciation or your diction. The only thing that matters is your personality, as I've said it throughout this video, that how you answer is the only thing that matters. And sometimes your answers may lack the quality which you would have wanted it in, but it doesn't matter if you present it in a really good way. And sometimes they may not know the answer. What they actually look at is how you answer and your confidence while answering these things. So while answering the questions, maintain a dignity, maintain a confidence level, but ensure that this confidence does not smack of arrogance, because you don't want to make these people feel that you're an arrogant personality. You should be pliable. If they point out some difference, or if they say that something has been wrong, accept it and say that you are wrong, and also at the same time thank them for giving you the right answer. Acknowledge the fact that you made a mistake. Acknowledging the fact would always help you in while they assess your personality, because what happens in an interview is that they will always try to intimidate you. They will try to give out factors or point out differences from your answers, and in such situation it is very important not to get intimidated. What is needed is to ensure that you can actually accept it with dignity, and at the same time maintain your confidence. Just because you don't know an answer, or just because you gave a wrong point, it doesn't mean that you will be sidelined or you will be heavily negatively marked for that. It doesn't matter at all. What is important is to maintain your confidence throughout the interview. It should not be that if you're giving a good answer, you feel it's a good answer, you're very happy and cheerful, but the moment you don't know an answer, your face suddenly starts to sulk and you feel very sad. You should not be showing all these emotions in the interview. In the interview, throughout, be a personality who is positive, who is cheerful, who has a smile on his face, and who is empathetic. I say this because there would be questions on variety of topics. So throughout the interview, you cannot be smiling, and there would be questions on poverty, there would be questions on terrorism, and all these questions would require emotions which should be shown accordingly. And when a question on poverty comes, it would be very stupid if you actually smile. So in such a situation, know what the question is, hear the question, give it a moment of thought and think about the question, and then answer. So this is a very important concept, that people tend to answer very fast, which is not advisable during the interview stage. Let them complete the question, wait for the question to be completed, process the answer in your mind, and then give the answer. So while answering, certain questions would be so that there would be policies of the government which could be questioned. You could be asked as to why a certain policy has not been successful, or maybe why, despite having so many policies on cleanliness, we still have so much filth all around our streets. In such a situation, what is required is not to sound grim. Government has policies, quote these policies and tell them that despite the limitations, we have been doing all these things. But in India, we do suffer from a lot of issues like a lot of poverty, illiteracy, but despite all these things, we are moving in a direction where we can actually work towards removing all these issues and problems. But maybe it may take a lot of time because of our inherent problems, but that doesn't mean that the government is not working. As future civil servants, as future government servants who have to be working with the government, you are not supposed to criticize the government. This is one advice I would like to give, that whatever you may feel about any policy during an interview, don't go to the extent of criticizing and saying government doesn't do anything. So rather, another good way of putting it would be that whatever the issues are, the government is functioning, and whatever the policy is with its existing lacuna would be a good step in the right direction. This is a good way of putting it actually, and never end any such question on a grim note by saying that maybe all these things won't work at all in India, or maybe India is far behind developed countries in all these things. Just keep a positive note, and do tell them and do remind them also that, see, despite all our poverty, from 47 we have come to this stage of one of the highest growing economies we have today in the world. So definitely in the future all these problems could also be addressed. So if you give an answer in this way, this will definitely look much more positive, and a positive person is a person who's liked more naturally also. So this will help you in your interview. And while answering, another important thing I would say is to maintain eye contact. This is very important, because when you answer, look them in their eyes and very confidently, but don't intimidate them. You should know what confidence is and what overconfidence is. So maintain a thin line of separation between the both. And when you're answering, ensure that you maintain eye contact with all the panelists who would be sitting around you in an interview, and most of your time should be given to the person who has asked you the question. And at least you can spread it around in a 60-40 ratio. Focus on him while answering, but also at the same time focus on the other people who are around you, and greet people when you're entering. It is generally good behavior to greet the women first. So if you have a lady panelist, greet her first and later greet the others also. And maintain eye contact, sound courteous, and if you don't know, say you don't know and say you're sorry that you're not able to recollect. They won't deduct your marks for not knowing 2-3 answers. It doesn't matter at all. And your English or your academic achievements in life, whatever your achievements have been or not have been all these years, it doesn't matter at all, because there are people who come from very rural areas and still score 200 plus, and there are people who are from, educated abroad maybe and not scoring really good marks in the interview. So the interview is everything about your personality. From the start to the end, it's all about your personality, and it's about how you handle questions and pressure which is thrown at you. And it's actually a situation where you would be maybe made aware of the kind of pressure you would be handling while you enter service. So this is one platform which actually gives you an opportunity to show them what you really are, where for once no one's asking you about theories or concepts, rather than it's all about you and yourself. So ensure that the interview is taken into a direction which you are pretty confident in. So I would say that while you know your hobbies, etc. in depth, this will give you an added advantage, because if they see that you know the concept well and if you know your hobby well, maybe they would ask you more about those things, and this would definitely take that interview in your direction, into a direction which you are comfortable with, so you can score better marks in that. And the starting of the interview is the most important aspect of the interview. So starting mostly happens around the DAF or around the place you're born in or the languages you speak. So look up all these things in depth, and the starting, if it goes well, I'm pretty sure the whole interview can actually go well. And I wish you all the best in the interview. And also one thing I would like to say is that because since the prelims is coming up and also the mains, so for the prelims do maximum test practices, because the prelims is a gamble which has negative marks in it. So do maximum questions and ensure you find a pliable range which you can attempt questions in, maybe not too much, maybe not too less, but a range which can score you, which can get you a score which is very comfortable and which stands in a safe zone. So find out such a range by attempting a lot of mock test papers. And I would like to tell you about the essay paper, because I got 150 in essay, and I would like to share my experiences in the essay paper with you. So somebody in future might also benefit from this, because the essay paper is seen as something which doesn't have a lot of coaching or any structured formula for getting marks in. So in the essay paper, what I would say is that the essay is actually like your imagination being put to test, and how good you are at bringing forward the facts you know, or bringing forward all those things you have studied all these years. Because in the essay, essentially it is a very, I would say a very concentrated form of the general studies. Because in the essay you have to write everything from general studies paper 1 to your optional, paper 2, 3, 4, all these things combined in one. So it is about how you concentrate all this information into one single question, which is your essay topic. And for a good essay, I would say the most important aspect is a good introduction. And in an introduction, most likely these days a lot of philosophical essays are coming. So whatever the topic of the essay is, nowadays I think a good introduction would be something which has maybe a short story like introduction, maybe something which can make the evaluator aware about the topic. At the same time gives you an opportunity to put yourself in the center of that topic and give a holistic picture of that topic in one para. So that one para of introduction should be catchy enough so that it makes him read further into the essay. So for example, if it is about farmer suicide, you can write about a family maybe based in somewhere in Vidarbha who have taken a loan to take out a new crop, and due to the farmer distress they have lost out a lot of money, and the father has committed suicide and the children are struggling for their education. Such an introduction would definitely be much more catchier than, say, going straight into the topic of farmer suicide and saying farmer suicides are happening in India and there are a lot of farmer suicides in India, and giving data to support it. Because essay is not general studies. Essay is mostly about your creative bent of mind and how you can write things which are interesting enough for the evaluator to know how much you know, and to also give an insight into all your knowledge of all your topics. So after a very catchy introduction, he'll definitely want to read more. So in further the body of your essay, I would say the best approach is to go according to your GS syllabus. Start with GS paper 1, then GS 2, 3 and 4. So you can start the body of your essay with history. For example, if it's about farmer suicide, why farmer distress has been happening in India. You can give the history of the British era where farmers were forced into cultivation of, say, indigo or tobacco, and farmers who were given a lot of tax which they had to pay, and then go into the geography as to why certain areas in India face farmer distress. And then you can go to the societal aspects of it, that people look down upon farming. And then come to paper 2, you can give government's acts, government laws to protect farmers from suicide. You can give the recent government schemes like insurance and Fasal Bima Yojana, etc. And then go to the avenue of other parts of paper 2 like international relations, and give examples of how in international relations India's exports are still less, or maybe that because we have signed certain free trade agreements with certain countries, that our farmers are not being protected adequately with proper import quotas or requirements. And then you can go to paper 3, which will have economic aspects of it, as to why MSP hasn't been an issue, and our issues at WTO and stocks and stock holding at the Food Corporation of India. And then you can go about the 5-year plans. It's always a good idea to be quoting the 5-year plans, especially for agriculture. First 5-year plan which had focused upon agriculture, and fourth 5-year plan, sixth 5-year plan. If you can quote all these 5-year plans, this would give your answer a lot more material as well as data to ensure that you bring about accuracy in your essay. And after paper 3, it would be good if you can bring in a little more of philosophical quotes, etc. I would not suggest you to start an essay with a quote, because starting an essay with a quote tends to limit your essay. But if you can put a quote towards the end, it gives a good impression on the mind of the reader. So, and towards the end, you can complete your story which you had left off in the first paragraph. Towards the end of the essay, you can again complete that story, and then ensure that your essay again ends on a positive note. You want all your answers and your essays all through the UPSC examination to be something which is positive. You don't want to sound grim, you don't want to say that nothing is going to happen and everything is doomed. You always have to end it at a positive note and give the reader an impression that in future things are bound to change. So this is one of the most important aspects even in an essay. And in the first essay and the second essay, I would say that during the writing of the second essay, choose a topic which is different from the first essay. Don't make them look very similar, and during the second essay, change the approach of writing the essay as well. That is, if during the first essay you had gone through a general studies approach of GS 1, 2, 3 and 4, by the time you write the second essay, have a different approach of, say, quoting all the stakeholders. For example, if it is about empowerment, you can quote the stakeholders like women, children, economy in general, the country as a whole, minorities. So both these essays should look different, and the difference in both the essays would make it more unique. Otherwise, if you choose topics which are similar and if you have approaches which are similar, you may score well in the first essay but not adequately in the second essay. So that could reduce your marks overall, and the essay marks can actually shoot up your rank or equally bring it down if you have written a poor essay. So I would say that you make a list of certain quotes which can be used in all topics like economics, women empowerment, poverty or education. It would be good if you make a list of quotes which you can memorize and use it during an essay, and also certain data which you can get from the economic survey, etc., which you can quote, and also a single reading of the 5-year plans can also help you. And hence the essay can look something which is more polished as opposed to basically just writing it down and looking at and making it look like a general studies answer. So I hope that you would benefit from whatever I've said, and all the best to all the aspiring candidates. Thank you. Yeah.